So, hey guys, so I got an interesting video for you today. A little bit different than what I've been doing normally. I've had some thought patterns going along, thanks to social media, into parasites and my thoughts of my life experience and then obviously, as I love to embrace the weird, and so let's start a bit with life experience. So I've had health conditions in my life, as we all have, get sick and symptoms and whatnot, and you look it up and you talk to your doctor and work your way through it and you see what you can discover and what you can fix. And I remember when I was younger, talking to a doctor of mine and asking him about parasites, and his answer to me was, we don't have parasites in North America. This isn't Africa or India or somewhere else where we know that we've seen things where they talk about the parasites that crawl out of their feet and stuff, and when they step into water, that's how they get them to come out and put their feet in water. And and there's many other kinds, and I know one was a brain parasite, and they didn't even have proper medicine for this for humans. They do in the veterinary world, but not for humans, and that's because of the testing was easier for them to get it for the animals. And with the people, they were injecting like a glycol type solution, which is antifreeze, and they would feel it burning through their veins, but that's how they would do it. And I think it was half the people that took that treatment died and half them survived. So that's crazy odds. Whereas the veterinary method was not like that. And so, I mean, that's sad, but it's a true problem that we have over in some parts of the world with these parasites. And so then we come over here where the doctors are telling us that we don't have parasites, and well, don't know that that's true. I've had puppies, they've had parasites, and I know a friend had a cat that had parasites, and that cat slept in her bed. So, where does this all land? Well, maybe that we do have parasites. And I mean, there's passages in the Bibles that talks about worms and the worm that dieth not, and the fire that won't be quenched. And that's mentioned in it's mentioned in Mark and 9:42, and Isaiah, at the end of Isaiah, the very last parable, if that's the right word, is the same lines that the fire quenches not, that and that the worm doesn't die. And so this is interesting. And then when you think about serpents and that these are these worms, because in Egypt the cobra that comes out of the headdress of the pharaohs is meant to represent what? Some people have thought that it represents the worm that is controlling us. And when you talk about parasites and rodents, and how rats are controlled by parasites, that they're normally nocturnal, but if they get parasites, they'll actually just come out in the day, and they'll come right up to people and take food, and they'll be right out in the open and making very risky moves, putting themselves in jeopardy continuously just for food that the parasite is telling them to do. And that's I guess the way they operate is parasites have a way of sending chemicals through to our brain, which tells our brain to tell us to eat, and so that we can feed the parasite, and which causes these behaviors that we might not normally do, because we're not normally that type of hungry. And so very interesting stuff. This is, how do we say, for entertainment purposes, do your own research and enjoy the search and learn more. And where does it all land? What is it that that we're trying to achieve? Well, good health and happiness, and if that means that we're using our own thought patterns and decisions, that's probably a good thing. If there's truth to anti-parasitic control. So, I mean, that's my video for today. I thought I would just bring this topic to mind, and there's a nice little pun, and I thought that some people might enjoy this thought pattern, and it might help people. And that statement there made me think of this one story of this young boy. I think he was 3, and he still wasn't talking, and they did a anti-parasitic treatment on the boy, and visible worms were in his diaper, and that same day that boy began to talk. So, you know, we can say whatever we want, we can discount stories and everything else, and sure, we could always do that and never get any traction. Or we could look at these stories and see if there's similarities, other stories, and run down that path, and there are. And you know, this is a short video, and but it touches on something I think that is very important moving forward. I mean, we could even delve into what we've been going through over the last few years, where there was an anti-parasitic that was said that would help us with this sickness that was going around, this cold flu type sickness, and that there was an anti-parasitic that's very famous. They call it, you know, for veterinary use, but that I understand is not true. I understand that when they actually had SARS-CoV-1, they did a study that took them like a decade. They didn't finish it until 2017, where the results were that the best treatment for SARS-CoV-1 moving forward would be ivermectin, which is an anti-parasitic drug, and that would be the best treatment that they could discover. And so what would happen if there was some conspiracy to keep us parasitic? What would happen if basically everybody got this sickness almost? And so if we're all getting this cold flu, and then we all take an anti-parasitic because it helps you get past it, well then there's going to be a serious eradication of parasites, and a serious changing of moods, and a serious changes of wow, maybe even work ethic. Maybe people, if they're not as hungry, they might not work as hard. But if they're not as hungry, they probably wouldn't be as obese and as unhealthy and as demanding on the medical system. And maybe they'd be happier not being controlled and feeling so out of control, and you know, having these internal demands for food. It says biblically that the way to get past it is that, I believe it's in Job, where the disciples were trying to cast out a demon, and I believe that's how it was, and they couldn't, and so Jesus did it, and he said to them that this couldn't be cast out with just prayer, that it needed prayer and fasting. And I mean, fasting is a known anti-parasitic. If they don't get to eat, they die. And you know, when they die, they still have eggs, and so there is a life cycle. And so it's not like it's a one and done.